My wife had just been married a couple years now, and I looked at her and I said, "Can we try this?" And she said, "All right, we can try this, but here's the deal. You've got 3 things you have to do for me." And I said, "Okay, what are they?" She goes, "We got to have X number of dollars. We can't avoid that. We got to pay bills." So I said, "Cool, let's do it." We figured out how much we needed. That was my first goal. The second goal was don't get arrested.
Okay.
Because in Atlanta, that time I wasn't sure what was going on. So in Atlanta, you have to live.
I'm back now for it.
I'll back you what you're asking me. In Atlanta, you at least gotta live somewhere 2 years to bail somebody out.
Okay.
And so we had moved different apartments and houses like that. Yeah, and because you get arrested. But so she's like, I can't bail you out. And I was like, all right. And she's like, your parents have to. And I was like, oh God, no, I don't want that. Because the reason I would be is I have a bad habit of drawing on walls and putting stickers up and things like that around places. Never with spray cans, but with markers. So, I can just see me at 35, call my folks and go, hey, I'm in jail for drawing a stop sign. Come bail me out. I would get called a dumbass and be told to stay there 24 hours or longer. And so she couldn't bail me out. So that was rule 2. And then rule 3 was don't do anything stupid like get an STD. That was literally what she said. Don't get arrested, make X number of dollars, and don't get an STD. And I was like, geez, that last rule is kind of an easy one. I was like, no problem. So, we made funny jokes every now and then. I was like, well, part of what we were planning on doing was I was going to go out and do conventions, comic book horror conventions, things like that. And I said, sometimes we get a little rowdy. We get the monster drink in us or the caffeine and get our lightsabers in our hands. Things get a little dangerous. So I can't promise I won't get arrested. But it hasn't happened yet, thankfully. So that all was like the game plan. And then it was just a matter of figuring out how I was going to do it. Right. And then I've always done something where I've carried a flyer with me, whether it be helping a friend promote his band or my younger days I did a fanzine, a little independent music magazine. And so we were always promoting things that way. So it just kind of felt natural to kind of almost be a bit of a whore, self-promoter. So I started looking on the internet of things that I could do. I started looking at comic conventions, and then it got to horror conventions, and it branched out to all the little sects of that lifestyle. And then tattoo conventions came up, and then, I still needed more because it wasn't enough. So we looked into things like live painting, where I would go set up at a bar, call the bar up, and ask if I could come set up. And while I was painting, I'd have a little small table with a couple paintings on it. Be like, hey, this is how I survived. Because the bar wasn't paying me anything but booze. Right. So we would do that, and then that became something else. And eventually it got to where the live painting was something I was doing pretty regularly. We organized an event based around in Atlanta. And then I started doing it with bands while they were playing. And then, this year I went out with Damien for a week. And those guys, we all hung out and painted every day in the freezing cold snow. And, being from Atlanta, we don't see snow like that.
It doesn't bother you having people kind of watch while
you're
painting?
Not at all. I don't. Yes. Yeah, exhibitions, but closed all the time. Exactly. Or really what it boils down to is I'm never going to get that because I keep my clothes on. I even wear a t-shirt to the beach if you're wondering. So that kind of took off, and then, we were looking to do more shows, more gallery shows. And I'd call galleries up in Atlanta or in other states, and I'd go, I introduce myself, tell them what I did, submit files, and they'd go, well, do you have a resume? And I was like, a resume for artists? Really? Yeah. So we kind of figured out what that was and how that applied to an artist, how a resume would, which is the same as a job resume. It's just, instead of places I work, it's things I've done.
Yeah, you've got
it's starting to get,
you've got dozens of group shows.
It's getting pretty nuts. Yeah. So, but I didn't have this at the time. And so these galleries would be like, well, you got to have a gallery show before we can give you another one, even if it's a group show. And I was like, well, if you don't give me one, how do I get one?
Yeah, where do I find one?
So me and Sally sat down and we talked, and we decided that we were going to make up our own gallery shows. And not lie, we were physically going to actually put on shows, but we were going to do them in bars or places that the live painting was at, that I'd built relationships with. And we just left out, you know, like one place was the 5 Spot. So we just left out bar and grill at the end of it and just put at the 5 Spot. So I started having shows now. And we did several of those in the years, and then I had a resume built up, and then I could submit that. And now they're like, oh, you've done 3 or 4 shows. You're important. It's like, no, I'm really not any more important than I was 10 days ago when I sent you this. But I have a resume now.
Yeah, you look good on paper.
Yeah, he looks good on paper. Yeah. So when all that's said and done, that's kind of how it began and how it is right now. I mean, every year it's a challenge to see how much longer I can keep this going. You know, it's like, how do you figure this out? Where do you go from here? Like, done the conventions, I've done the gallery shows, which is what I love and which I want to continue to do. It's just, what's the next step? Where are we going to get the next dollar? Because when you do this full time for yourself, you don't have that 15th and 30th paycheck to bounce on.
Well, it sounds like kind of what you were mentioning, friends and community has kind of played a big part. Is that the way that you kind of see this continuing to multiply, or you?
I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, because like all of you guys down here, you know, Sally went to school in this area, or just outside this area, Kissimmee, and she met Damien, which then turned met Rich, which, you know, Emily and the rest of the guys in the room here. And then, of course, you guys, we all kind of connected. And if it wasn't for that one initial meeting before I even came into her life, I would have never met you guys. So